Hello, this is Miggy Lopez, and I'm going to be walking you through Google Sheets basic/intermediate training. Please do keep in mind that it's going to be essential for you to have a Google Sheet page open as we introduce different strategies so that you can pause this video and attempt the strategies and the steps that you'll receive here. That's going to really help you retain and practice what we're introducing in this video. So let's go ahead and get started right away. In this training, we're going to be going over creating, naming, and moving a Google Sheet. We're also going to be going over showing you how to manage the share settings, resizing columns and rows, formatting cells, adding basic formulas, and adding sheets to a workbook, as well as columns and rows. So let's go ahead and get started. By the way, we also want to mention that we're showing you one way to do these tasks. However, as you become more proficient in using Google Sheet, you'll notice that there are multiple ways to achieve the same thing. But for the sake of simplicity, we're only going to show you one way, with the understanding that as you become more proficient, you're going to learn more ways that you can do some of the follow the steps and the functions that we're going to be showing you. So we're going to go ahead and get started right away. The first that we're going to be going over is how to create a name and move a Google Sheet. So we're going to begin by, first of all, showing you that you can actually access a Google Sheet from multiple locations. You can go to your Drive, and on your Drive, you're going to see that there is a plus sign. And if you click on that plus sign, select the choice that says Google Sheets. You can also, from almost anywhere in the Google Suite, you can also click on the waffle that's right next to your name and logo, and from there you can select the icon for Google Sheets. So that's one way that you can open Google Sheet. You can also, this is also visible if you are in your email. You'll also see this right here on the top corner, and you can select it there, okay? So first, let's get familiarized with the layout of Google Sheet. Once you open a Google Sheet, you're going to come to a screen that looks like this. You're going to notice that there's an area where you can name your presentation. You're going to notice that there is a menu that goes across the top. And below it, you're going to see a toolbar. That toolbar will change as you click on different things and you wish to do different functions. You also are going to see that there are rows that go horizontally, and there are columns that all are vertical. Each cell in a sheet has an address, and that address is made up of its letter, the letter of the column, and the number of the rows. So if I were to want to know what the address is for this cell right here, I look above and I see that it's in the D column and in the sixth row. So the address for this cell is D6. It's important for you to know that. You will notice also that you have an area on the bottom of the sheet where you can add multiple rows at the bottom. So you would type in the number of rows you want to add and hit enter or add. Also on the bottom, there's an area that says sheets. If you have multiple sheets in this workbook, you would see them here. You would see sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and so on. I'll show you how you can go ahead and change it so that there's a name for each of these tabs. There's also an explore option that we're not going to cover in this training, but that offers you some really neat features in the program. Please do notice that, like most Google applications, you have a share button here. So be mindful of all of these features as we're going to be going over them in our presentation. So something else that we also want to cover is that there are different cursors that will change depending on what you want to do and what you're doing in Google Sheets. The one that you will see by default is the select icon, and you can see that that's the one that's operating for me right now. There's a grab and drag. When you grab something, you'll see like this. When you click on it, where you have that option of grabbing and dragging, it'll look like this. And as you click and drag, you'll notice that the hand will close. There's also an arrow that is points in different directions. That is to stretch or shrink. There's also a drag and copy, and you'll see that in a little bit. And this one is a grab and move, particularly when you're moving an object. So let's move on. Now, this is the first thing that we'd like to do. We'd like to go ahead and name a sheet. And that is very simple and easy to do. In the sheet that you have open, you simply click on where it says Untitled Spreadsheet, and you go ahead and you change the name. So I have one open here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to type Google Sheet training. Okay. So that it's as easy as that to name a sheet. So let's move on. You may want to go ahead and practice. I mean, this is simple enough. Okay, moving on now. So moving a Google Sheet. So let's say that you already started a Google Sheet and now you want to move it and put it in a particular folder. The way that you do that is by clicking on this folder here. And when you click on the folder, you will notice that it will give you options as to where to put it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to click on folder. And right away, you'll notice that for me, the options that come up is my drive. And I have folders that are in my drive. And I can select where I want to go ahead and store this folder. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new folder because none of the folders that I have there are ones that I want to use. So I'm going to hit New. And I'm going to call it training sessions. Then I'm going to hit on the arrow. And once I hit on the arrow, I'm now inside this folder and I'm going to say, move here. So now this Google Sheet training is inside the folder that is named training sessions. Okay. So now we know how to move a sheet to another folder. If you want to go ahead and practice, this is a good time for you to hit pause and practice that, and then come back. Okay, so now another tip that may help you keep things better organized would be for you to begin a Google Sheet in the folder that you want it to reside. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to go to my Google Drive, and from Google Drive, I'm going to go ahead and navigate to a folder. So since I did create the one that is called training sessions, I'm going to go ahead and find that folder, and here it is, training sessions. I'm going to double click on it so that it's open. I'm going to right click on the screen and I'm going to select Google Sheet. Once I do that, it's going to open a Google Sheet that is going to be housed inside that folder. That's an easy way to create a Google Sheet that resides in a particular folder. That's just another option and another idea for you to consider. You may want to now pause and go try that and then come back. Okay, we're going to move right along to the next section. So now we're going to look at how we manage the share settings. So let's say that I already have a Google Sheet that I have created, and I do, and now I want to share it with someone. So sharing is as easy as it is when we're sharing a Google Doc or any other document that we've created in a Google Suite environment. So I'm going to click on the share button that looks like this. When I do, a window is going to open that says share with others, and we can type in the name or the address of the person that we want to share with. If we type in the name and they happen to be in my contact list, their email is going to come up and I will select the email. If it's someone who's not on your contact list, you might want to get their email first and type in their email so they can share. The next thing that's going to be very important for you to do is to determine whether this individual will be able to edit the document, can comment on the document, or you simply want them to view the document. So those are the basic sharing settings. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that now, just so that you see how I follow those steps. So I'm going to click on share. Where it says people, I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to share it with myself. Principal Miggy at Gmail. You see how the address comes up at gmail.com, right? So there it is. Now what I'm going to do is, instead of typing in an email, I'm going to type in the name because I want you to see how the different options for emails come up. And you'll notice there that M. Lopez at northrockland.org comes up, and so does principalmiggy at gmail.com. And these must be students in the district. But again, you can type in a name if you know that person is in your contacts, or you can type in their email. Once you've added the name of the person, you decide again if you want that person to edit, to comment, or to view. So I'm going to select edit, and you'll notice that it turns into a pencil. If I do comment, you'll see a comment bubble. If I do view, you see a little eye. So it's important for you to know those icons. As you view different documents, you'll know what type of privileges people have. So I'm going to say can edit. And I'm going to leave this notify people here. I may want to add a note and say, this is the spreadsheet that we discussed. Please feel free to make additions and whatever. Once you're satisfied with that, you hit send, and an email will be generated. Because this is an email that it's outside of the school's domain, it does give me a warning. It says you are sharing to Principal Miggy at gmail.com, who is not in the G Suite organization that this item belongs to. So you can say yes or you can say no. I'm going to say yes because I'm actually sharing it with myself. And I'm going to say yes. And then it's done. It's shared with one person. And here's your confirmation: shared with one person. However, we do want you to know that there are more advanced sharing options. And this is very, very important for you to be mindful of. So you follow basically the same process that I did a little bit ago, but you go and do a couple more steps. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. I'm going to hit share. Then you'll notice it tells me, by the way, that this is shared with one person. It tells me who is shared with. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on, as it says here, I'm going to click on, hold on just one second. I'm going to click on advanced. And then you'll notice that it gives me a few options. Option one is, and this is super important, it says here, owner settings. Prevent editors from changing access and adding new people. Depending on what it is that you're creating, you may want to decide whether or not this is going to be important for you to check. That means that this is only going to the person you shared it, and they do not have the right to changing the access settings and adding new people to this document. The other piece too disables the option to download, print, and copy for commenters and viewers. Notice that this only applies to commenters and viewers. It's important for you to be aware of those options. If you want even more options, you click on where it says change, and I'm going to do that right now. And I want you to see what comes up when you click on change. So now what comes up is public on the web, or on for anyone with the link, or on for North Rockland Central School District. And then it tells you a little description below. Anyone at North Rockland Central School District can find and can access. Or you can have it on, anyone at North Rockland Central School District with the link can access it. And then the next one is it's off, and the link sharing is off, and only specific people have access. By default, this is usually the one that is on, and you can choose whichever one of these you want, and you can click on save. I'm going to say save, and there it is. And again, you can see the people who have access to this. Okay, and I'm going to click done, and we're going to move on with our training. This might be a very good time for you to pause, try this out, and then come back. Okay, we're going to go on with our training. The next piece that we're going to do is resizing columns and rows. And this is actually very easy to do. Step one is simply bring the cursor between the row or column that you want to resize. I'm going to do that. Let's say that I want to resize column A. I'm just going to go ahead and stretch it. Let's say that I want to stretch row 1. It's as easy as that. So now I have both stretched the column and the row. So it's actually quite easy to do. Let's go on. Okay. So now, how do I hide columns and rows? Believe it or not, this is an important feature to have. I have used it multiple times, particularly when I've been adding functions that do multiple calculations and then return a particular result, and I don't want people to see any of that. I have chosen to go ahead and hide some columns. So let's say that I want to hide column B and C. I select B and C. I can right click on it, and actually I can say hide columns B and C. And you'll notice now B and C are hidden. And the way I know that they are is because I see these little arrows, which, by the way, are the ones that you click on if you want to go ahead and you want to undo that. Okay, so again, you select them, you click on hide columns B and C, and now they're hidden. And the same thing works for rows. Let's say that I want to hide rows 4 and 5. I can click at hide rows 4 and 5, and again, it gives me those little arrows, okay? That shows me that those rows are hidden, okay? So you may want to go ahead and practice this right now, and then come back. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and format some of the cells that we have here. So do know that cells can be merged. They can be filled with a color. You can type on them with different fonts. You can give them alternating colors to make it easier to read, or you can highlight them with borders as well. So let's go right ahead and get started with this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to merge some cells. So I'm going to go to a sheet that I had already populated inside this worksheet. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to merge the titles that I have here for these two tables. So I'm going to select cell A1 and I'm going to drag across to D. And once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on my merge cell icon, which is right here. And now you'll see now it's merged. Now I may want to center it. I may want the text to appear in the middle of that row. And there you go. So again, to merge, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to select my first row, my first cell, and I'm going to move across. And I'm going to go ahead and click on my merge icon. And now it's merged. And while I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and center it to the row. And I'm going to center it across the columns. And there you go. An easy way to go ahead and merge cells. You may want to pause now and try this, and then come back. Okay, now we're going to practice changing cell color. So in order to change cell color, it's really simple. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the cell. In this case, I'm going to do multiple cells. I'm going to take that those cells that I merged a little bit ago, and I'm going to, once I select them, I'm going to go ahead and pick my fill color, and then I get the choices of the colors I can choose from. I'm going to choose one, and voila, there it is. Now it all has the same color. I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to be consistent and choose the same color. So it's very easy to choose either a whole column. You can color a whole column, you can color a whole row, or you can color specific cells. It's up to you, but it's the same process. Select and then click on fill color. And there you go. So let's move on to the next. Now, let's go over how to do alternating colors. Now, sometimes a spreadsheet, it's long and it's hard for the eyes to follow across. So one nice feature that we have here in Google Sheets is that it allows you to create alternating colors. So let's say that I want to have alternating colors right here. I select the area, I go to format, and then I click alternating colors, and then I'm given a choice. I can choose any one of these, or I can make my own. I can create my own custom style if I wanted to match a certain way. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it with the one that comes up. Actually, that's pretty faint. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to change it. I think I'm going to go with this one. And you'll notice right away how the colors are alternating, okay? You can do that to an entire sheet. It's up to you, or you can do it just to specific ranges, but it makes it easier for the eye to go ahead and follow across. Okay, so that's how you change and you give a sheet alternating colors. Okay, let's move on to the next part. So let's go over adding and formatting borders. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back and I'm going to select the cells that I want to give a border to. and I selected them. Now I'm going to go ahead and select my borders. And in this case, I do want the lines to be in all of the areas. You'll notice how it gave me lines. Now, let's say that I want to go ahead and actually give a much thicker line all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose, thickness. Oh, I did not want to do that. I don't want the thickness all the way around. So I'm going to actually go back. I'm going to select thin. I'm going to select this one here. Now I've got the outside perimeter. And for that, I want a thick color. And there you go. Let's say that I want this one to be the same way. It does save my last choice. So I'm going to do this. And now I have a thicker line around the entire table and around the heading here. Okay. So that's how we go ahead and we add those lines. You can also change the color of those lines if you so choose. So the way that we do that, again, let me just close some of these windows that I have open. I'm going to select here. I'm going to select here, and I'm going to select a different color. Let's say that I want the color to be, I don't know what color. I'm going to make it this ugly color just for now. Hold on just a second. I forgot to choose the actual. There you go. So you can actually change the color of the lines that are going around. Okay. Let's move on. This might be a good time for you to pause and go practice and follow these steps to add borders, change the thickness, and change the color. Okay, we're going to move on now. And now we're going to look at how do we add and format text. In the example that I have here, I already have text included. So it's actually pretty simple. It's a matter of clicking on a cell and typing along just like you would in any other program. Okay, so it's a matter of just clicking on it and typing. And then the next thing is, let's say that I want to make this text, I want to change it because I want this text to be perhaps a larger size. I'm going to choose 14. I'm going to choose a different font. I'm going to, I don't know if you're like me, but I go through stages where I like a particular font and that's what I use for everything. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to choose this one, Merriweather, and you see that it changes it. You can change the color of a font as well, like you can in any other program. So I know I'm choosing wild colors here, but let's say that I want it to be red, and there it is. It's red. That looks awful. So we're gonna go back. There you go. So you can change again the size, the font, and the color. And you have different options to choose from here. Okay, now we're getting into where things get a little bit more complex, but it's not impossible, okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some basic formulas. But before we do, I just want to go over that every formula begins with an equal sign. And it begins with an equal sign because the outcome of whatever formula you put in is actually going to be the value that gets calculated and added to that cell. So let's move on to the next part. So here are some basic mathematical operators that we're going to use today. Mind you, you can get as complicated as you want to. I mean, there's some pretty sophisticated formulas out there that you can use, but we're going to stick with simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And on this sheet, I've actually added a formula. Notice that there are multiple ways that you can write these formulas. For example, for addition, I gave you this one. You can do equals sum of particular cells, and it'll return the values that are in a cell in column A, row 1 to column A, row 3. It'll return the sum and add it for you there. You can also write it a different way. You can simply say A plus A1 plus A2 plus A3 equals, and it'll return that. Here, obviously, this is simply adding A1 and A3, but if you wanted to do this, you would add A1, A2, A3, okay? For subtraction, again, is this the sign. You can simply do A2 minus A3, and it'll return the difference. For multiplication, again, you use an asterisk, and it's multiplying, in this case, cell A2 times cell A3. And then for division, again, we use, even though I didn't put the sign here, it's actually the forward slash, which actually divides B4 by B5, okay? So let's go ahead and try this right now, okay? So here I have a table where I'm calculating student-teacher ratio. So I have here elementary, middle school, and high school. And let's begin by getting a sum of students and a sum of teachers. So I'm going to click on the cell. I'm going to type in my equal sign. Now it all of a sudden knows that it wants that I can actually type in a formula there. Notice that it gives you options, right? It asks me, oh, do you want to sum cells B8 to B10? You can simply click on that and it'll give it to you, but that's not always going to be the case. So you can click on it and it'll give you the option, and then you hit enter and it'll return a value. In cases where this does not work, whatever suggestion it gives you, then you simply go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and write sum, and then I'm going to put on open parentheses. I'm going to select the cells that I want to add, and I'm going to do my close parentheses. I didn't even have to do that. I could just hit enter and it would do it for me. Okay, and there is your total. Now, I can do the same thing again here, or I could just simply drag it. So I'm going to drag it. See, so I drag the formula and it calculates it for me here. So you see, okay. So that's again doing addition. Let's do some division now, right? Let's say that I want to calculate now the student-teacher ratio, right? So again, I begin with an equal sign, and then I select students. Then I'm going to put in my forward slash for division, and I'm going to select the cell for teachers, and then I'm going to hit enter. So there's my ratio, okay? So it's 20, okay? I'm going to go ahead and drag down. Okay. I actually, hold on just 1 second. I don't want it to give me all this decimal, so I'm going to reduce all those. There you go. Okay. So there you have your division. Okay. So let's move on now to, now we're going to do subtraction. Is the one we have not done. Okay. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to, actually we haven't done multiplication either. So I'm going to go ahead and put in that this is a table for ELA workbooks inventory. Let's say that I ordered 3,000. Actually, I'm going to say 2,000. Okay. I distributed 1235, and I want to keep a running total. So this was going to be equals this cell minus this cell, and simply I hit enter. Okay. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add borders. Okay. And if I don't like those borders, I can go back to this. There we go. So there is my, there are my results. Okay, for that. And then again, multiplication really is the same way. You take, let's say, hold on just a second. 5, hold on, students, what are we gonna do? Books, number of books. Let's say that each student has 3 books. So this is gonna be equals this times, I can do this equals 15. Okay, so it's really simple. As long as you know what your operators are, you can go ahead and add them. By the way, there are multiple ways to get this accomplished. It's not just the way that I'm showing you right now. It's actually, you really do have options. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. Now, I've already showed you how to add a sum, and I gave you the steps here so that you can follow. And I gave you the steps here so that you can follow in terms of doing ratio, the steps for that. And that's it. I'm going to pause here now. You can pause here now and go ahead and try this and come back. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is how do we add sheets and how do we add rows and columns? But before we do that, let's just clarify something. So Google Sheets is the application that we find in Google Suite. We also use, you're going to hear this term, a worksheet. A worksheet simply refers to a single sheet. But however, in the case of this example that I'm using with you now, you'll notice that there are multiple sheets. All of these are called, a workbook. And you're going to see that when you go to print, it's going to ask you active sheet or entire workbook. Understand that the entire workbook is every single sheet that's inside your workbook, okay? All right, so let's move on now. How do we add sheets, rows, and columns? It's actually quite easy. So what you need to do for that is simply go to, I'm going to put my insertion point. Let's say that I want to add another row in between these here. I'm going to click on insert, and I'm going to say add a row below, and there's my row below. Let's say that I want to add a column and I want to add it to the left. I'm going to click on D. I'm going to say insert column to the left. And now I have a column that was inserted to the left. I'm going to undo that and I'm going to say insert column to the right, and you'll notice that a column was inserted to the right. Okay, so now you know how to insert columns and how to insert rows. Let's say that I'm at the end of a sheet and I want to add, let me show you one more thing. Let's say that I want to insert 2 rows. You click on 2 rows and you can say insert 2 rows below. Let's say that you want to insert 4 rows. You select 4 and you say insert 4 rows above. Okay, so just know that you can insert multiple rows or you can insert single rows. Okay, it just makes it easy. And by the way, what I was doing there was right clicking. You don't always have to come up here. You can do right click and the options come up. Okay, so let's say that I do want to add multiple rows to the end of my sheet. All I have to do is go to the very end of my sheet, and you'll notice that at the end it says add, and then by default it gives me 1,000, but I can say, let's say that I want to add 50, hit 50, and then I hit add, and it adds 50 for me. Okay, so that's just one quick way that you can add a lot of rows to the end of a sheet. So let's say that now you want to go ahead and add a sheet, and you'll notice that I have some sheets that I added, and you can tell that there's some sheets that I deleted as well, right? So if I want to insert a sheet, I simply click on this plus arrow. I click on insert, and here's my new sheet. It's called sheet 5. To rename it, all I have to do is double click on it, and I'm going to call it test sheet. And there it is. By the way, you can also change the color of these tabs. And sometimes that makes it useful because sometimes it's just easier to look for a color than it is to be reading everything that's there. So you'll notice that a color line appears below it. Okay, that's just a feature that makes it pretty useful. So we are at the end of our training. I hope this has been useful to you. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. You can email me, and I'll be glad to assist you. And if you discover some really neat things that, to do some of the things that I showed you here, then please feel free to share. Okay. Thank you. And I hope this has been useful for you.